back once again. Well, since you guys liked my other video so much, making the hearty beef stew, I decided to go ahead and do another cooking video for you guys. This one's going to be how to make vegetable beef soup. And the ingredients are similar, but there are some differences, so I'm going to go ahead and go through what we're going to use today. First of all, I'm going to use 2 packages of sliced chuck. This you can use either beef stew meat, which this actually is, but chuck or ground round works just as well. Because we're going to be cooking it today in the crock pot, I cannot use the high quality beef like I did last time, because you're going to be slow cooking this for about 5 hours or more, depending on how well you like it cooked. And the beef, the high quality beef, would just turn to nothing. Next we have 2 cans of kidney beans. I have a can of dark and light kidney beans. I have 2 packages of mixed vegetables, sweet peas, and 1 pack of mixed vegetables. We have 2 things of small squash. I also have 2 things of small zucchini. Quite a bit of celery, because I like a lot of celery in my soup. Carrots, not a lot, maybe about a cup or so, if it was cut up. 2 Spanish sweet onions, salt and pepper. This is just diced tomatoes. 2 things of the beef broth. We have the noodles we're going to put in. That's going to be like our pasta. Celery, salt, onion powder, and some minced garlic. And then I have the 2 things that my buddy Chris gave me. The first one you've seen before is the dehydrated vegetable powder. This is super concentrated, especially if you're going to slow cook. This gives it a phenomenal taste. This has things like carrots, celery, parsley, and things like that in there. And lastly, if you guys remember Chris Golosi's video about the homemade tomato sauce, and of course mine for the beef stew, we have some of the gravy or sauce that he had left over. So we're going to go ahead and incorporate that into this recipe. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is dump our liquid in. That's going to be this tomato sauce. It's going to go right into the slow cooker or crock pot. Now, I have 2 things of the beef broth. I'm going to start just with 1 because I'm not exactly sure how much room we're going to have in here. So, yeah, we'll just start with 1 for now. And just so you guys know, that's a 32-ounce container of beef broth. Next, we'll go ahead and put in our diced tomatoes. These are Italian-style diced tomatoes with basil, garlic, and oregano. Let's go ahead and dump those in there. No reason to strain that or anything. I'm going to go ahead and get our spoon because at this point I want to go ahead and put the garlic in. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons, 2 heaping teaspoons of the minced garlic. Because remember, you want that to be incorporated quickly. Now what I'm going to do, I don't know if you guys can see this, but on the front here, I'm going to go ahead and turn the crock pot onto high so we can go ahead and start getting that heated up. We'll go ahead and put the mixed vegetables to the side because that's going to be one of the last things we're going to put in. So let's go ahead and start putting in our vegetables. We have to cut up our onions here. And for this one, I want a thin, pretty thin cut, not like the hearty beef stew. Because you remember, this is going to be a soup, so this is going to be much thinner. And I'm not sure if we're going to use both of these onions, but I figured since we have them, it's better to have them than not to have it. These are very fresh, I can tell you that. Yeah, and again, just for you guys who are curious, these are Spanish sweet onions. They're the jumbo-sized ones. These are on sale at our local Food Line for 99 cents a pound, I think. Yep. So not too bad of a deal. They're a little bit more expensive than just the regular yellow onions, but they're really well worth it. They give it a nice sweet flavor. All right, go ahead and put those in the crock pot. I'll leave just a few out because it does fill up quickly. Next we'll go on to the carrots. These I'm going to chop up a little bit thicker because this is going to be cooking for a very long time, at least 5 hours. Sometimes people like to leave this going overnight if you really like it well done, and I might do that. It just depends. So anywhere between 5 and 12 hours, again, just depending on your taste. And these will become mushy after about 6 hours. So I want good substantial slices in there. See if we can go ahead and do 2 at once. You might be able to hear my cat LT in the background. She might start meowing in a minute. But that's okay. Next we're going to the celery. Remember, you don't want the stalks that have the leaves on them. You see how these are very mushy? Not going to use those either because they're not going to cook down very well. Again, you're going to cut the bulb out about 1 inch to maybe 2 inches high. I think I'm going to cut this a little bit more because you want it to be towards the greener part. This stuff does not taste very good. And then of course you have to cut individually the leaves. And again, just a rocking motion when you do this. And these are going to be just a little bit thinner than I had them for the hearty beef stew. Just about like that should be good. Okay. I actually think that's going to be enough celery, so we're going to go ahead and go on to the squash and the zucchini. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move this over so you guys can see me cutting this a little bit more, because this is kind of important. When you're cutting this, you want to cut it in about, I'd say, 1/4 inch pieces. And again, it's not going to be perfect. It's not supposed to be. You want to get as close as you can. If I can do a close-up real quick. About like that's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting up the rest of these vegetables, and then we'll go ahead and continue from there. Alright, Now you can see we have all the vegetables put in there. It's starting to get kind of warm. Very next thing I want to do is go ahead and put in some of the mixed vegetable powder that my friend Chris gave me. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put 1 heaping teaspoon in there, just like he said. You can see that right there. Next we're going to add some celery salt. This is just the regular celery salt you can get anywhere, get it at your local grocery store. And I would say we're going to add about a couple tablespoons of that in there. There we go. Next we have the onion powder, and you can see it's kind of chunked up a little bit. Well, to fix that, all you have to do is bang it against the table. And about 3 tablespoons of this ought to do it. I like a lot of onion flavor in my soups. Now, next thing we have to do is take care of the kidney beans. Again, right here we have the light red kidney beans and the dark red kidney beans. Now, preparing the kidney beans is very easy. You don't have to pre-cook them or anything, but you see all that nasty liquid in there? Well, you need to strain that out through a colander. That liquid is not safe to drink. A lot of times it can harbor some nasty bacteria. So you want to go ahead and take both your cans, and you're going to go ahead and don't be afraid to get your fingers in there if you have to. You want to go ahead and strain this very well. It's a very, very slimy, it's like a slur that they put this in. And again, it's going to harbor some nasty surprises if you don't clean it. I do this for a good 30 seconds or so. The water on the bottom is going to strain out. And there you have it. Some clean kidney beans ready to go into our soup. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and incorporate our kidney beans into our soup. Now I'm not, but by all means I'm not going to use all of these. I'll probably want to be using about half of it. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, don't be afraid to kind of just get your hands in there. And don't forget to go towards the bottom because that was where our darker kidney beans are. Try not to break them. A few of them might break in the process, but if the more whole they stay, the better it's going to taste. So now that our kidney beans are in, let's go ahead and add just a little bit of salt, which I have right here. Then to your taste, I'm going to add about a tablespoon. I want to go ahead and add some pepper. Again, you guys know I like the pepper, so I'm going to add probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of that. Okay. Now that we have basically all of our vegetables cooking in there, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on. We're going to go to the next step, which is going to go ahead and brown the beef. Alright. You guys might notice that I had to break out the other crock pot, which is over there, because it started getting way too big for one. So that's okay. What I did is I just cut up another half of onion and 2 more stalks of celery to kind of make it even. So again, now all of our vegetables are incorporated. The very next thing, we're going to go ahead and put the meat in there. Again, this is just boneless beef stew meat. You can see it right there. Pot roast and stewing beef. Now one thing I want to mention is, you see where it says value priced here? This is a really good thing to look out for. Our local store Food Line does this a couple of days before the food is old and getting ready to spoil. Now, it's still perfectly good, but you only pay about half the price. See, that was originally $7.74 and was marked down to $3.07. So what I like to do is take it home, and if I'm not going to use it right away, I'll freeze it and take it out when I am ready to use it, and it's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and cut just a couple little holes in there. We want to go ahead and open this up. And since we have two, I'm going to use 1 pack per crock pot. You can see it's very good beef. It is lower quality because it is stewing meat, but that's exactly what you want. It is still a little frozen because I did freeze it after a few days. But you can see that's just about the right size. So let's go ahead and just put that in. And again, don't worry about if it's still a little frozen, because remember, this is going to cook off for a long time. Just try to break it apart as best you can. Just like that. Some of it's a little more frozen than others. If you can't break it apart, don't worry about it. It will come apart after a while. And what I did, guys, I decided not to go ahead and not stew up the meat first, because again, you're going to be cooking this I'm going to cook this at least for 10 hours. And you don't really need to stew up the beef if you're going to cook it that long. If you were going to do it the way we did before and have it where you need it done in a couple of hours, then by all means I would go ahead and brown it first. But in this case, I like a good meat that's going to fall apart. So I'm going to do that with the other one here, and I will show you guys what it looks like once it's been cooking for a little while. Alright, so the soups have been cooking for a couple of hours, and I decided to open up the mixed vegetables and the green peas because it's ready to go ahead and incorporate those in. Now, make sure when you put them in, you stir them a good amount. I like to have a lot of mixed vegetables in mine, so again, you're doing this basically to your own taste. You can see the meat is definitely starting to cook down. We're getting that brownish color. We got one there. Don't forget to put the lid back on. Then we'll come over here and do the same with this one right here. Again, try to move the stuff from the bottom to the top. Rotate it, because remember, this is a slow cooker, so it doesn't get all that hot. Just move that over a little more. Put the lid back on. And then we're going to let this cook for at least 2 or 3 more hours. And then we're going to go ahead and put in the pasta. And that'll be the last of the ingredients. Alright, it is now 6:30 at night. So these soups have been cooking now for about 3 more hours. Got about 5 hours of cooking time total on there. So let's go ahead and have a look. As you can see, it's at a simmer. Not quite a boil, but definitely a simmer. Now, my mother had a good idea. Because I took a taste of it, and because it's still a little bland, we're going to add not only some of these beef bouillon cubes, but I'm going to go ahead and put in some chicken bouillon as well, just to kind of flavor it up a little bit more. Let's go ahead and add that in. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of the chicken bouillon to this. And then we have what's called these beef bouillon cubes. Now you can buy the beef bouillon just like the chicken bouillon, but unfortunately our stores didn't have any this time, so we have to go with these little bouillon cubes. So I'm going to go ahead and put a few of those in each of these and let it cook for about an hour or 2 more. And then the last thing to do is to put in the macaroni. I decided to go with the macaroni instead of the noodles just because the noodles were a little bit too big. So stay tuned and we'll be back soon. Alright, so we are ready for the last step. We're going to go ahead and put the macaroni in here. This is just Columbia brand elbow macaroni. And because I tend to get a little overzealous, I am going to measure it. We're going to put 1 cup in each of these crock pots. So go ahead and take the lid off. Got 1 cup in this one. Fill it up again. We're going to go ahead and put a cup in this one too. And I just took a bite. The meat is tender as can be. Alright, so we'll go ahead and stir this up. I'll just go ahead and use this spoon because it doesn't need to be stirred too much. And since we have the ladle over here, I'll just use that for stirring this one. Alright, and now all you're going to do is let this cook for about another 30 minutes or so, so the macaroni is nice and al dente. That's the way we all like it here. And that is it. This is my version of vegetable beef soup. Please remember to like and subscribe, and as always, have a blessed day, everybody.